going to walk, and I decided that instead of vlogging today, I'm going to bring more value and give you a Q&A instead. A Q&A between me and Sean, your questions from Instagram, because I want to bring more value than you watching me with my leg on a desk typing on a laptop, which is what I've done today. So here's a Q&A with me and Sean. If you want to squeeze some value out of me, then the best way you can do that is by asking me a question across YouTube and the YouTube comments, Instagram comments, get into my DMs, anonymously on Tumblr. I read everything. I love reading your comments. I really appreciate it. I like the back and forth. I'm always learning from the questions you ask me, because it forces me to think about something that maybe I wasn't thinking deep enough about, and then I can share that learning experience with you. And then the more questions you ask me, the more frequently I can produce a Q&A for you, and we can all get value out of it. So that is the point. But yeah, cheers and enjoy this Q&A between me and Sean and your questions.
Alright, Q&A. Quirlinkind. Yeah.
So Quirlinkind asks, what's your view on alcohol and how often do you consume it, if at all? So at the for me, I feel like I'm experimenting at the moment with 0 alcohol, and then I'll see when I do have a bit of alcohol, does it really make a difference to my performance on the bike? Because I'd like to be able to tell, because a lot of the times it's very tempting when I'm out socially with people to drink, even just like being here in California, people are always offering me a beer. You know, it's a hot day, it sounds nice to have a beer, but then I'm like, how would that affect my performance on the bike? So at the moment I'm 0 alcohol, but then later on I think I will experiment and see what it's like to just have a beer, and will a beer affect my performance? Then I can tell you whether it does or not. But yeah, so at the moment I'm 0, but what about you?
I don't drink. Personally, I do taste my cocktails when they go out at the restaurant. That's like a guideline, but it's like you grab a straw and you get a drop on your tongue. But other than that, no alcohol. Special occasion, if somebody's having like, I'll have like a little bit of champagne or something just to like, you know, to celebrate, because it's like not rude if you say no, but like, you know, it's like, what's this little bit gonna do? When I used to train, actually every single day, my best friend and I that lived together, every day we rode it like 6 days a week. So every day it's like, hey, do you want to get a tall can at the corner store? Who's getting tallies today? So we'd have 1 tall can, and that was fine. But it became a problem when I was like, hey, let's get 2 tall cans. And then you start drinking 2 tall cans because you rode 6 hours, and you're like, oh, well, I earned these, but it doesn't do anything beneficial for your body. It's just ice cold, and it's like, you have that in your brain, like, oh, I want something cold and refreshing, but then you want to keep drinking. And a lot of people can't say no to after one. And for me, having the addictive personality, man, I'm just like all in.
That's the thing for me as well, yeah, for sure. I would just be, like the 1 would turn into 2 so quick, and it would just become a habit so easy. And I mean, physiologically, it thins your blood, having alcohol. So and the next day, you just feel like, well, I don't feel like I want to go and do hill reps. So I guess the answer for me is that at the moment I'm drinking 0 because I'm experimenting, so that I can tell you how much it does affect you. And then for you, you're not bothered.
I'm just such a positive person that I always felt like alcohol or drugs is kind of like put a damper on it, and I felt like fogged or hazy, like a cloud over my eyes.
I definitely feel like you don't need it.
And so I mean, and then let's just say like if you had like an upper or something to make you happy, there's a come down. So like I don't like have that when I'm happy, just on normal brain. But
I feel like there's always a metabolic cost for anything. Any drugs like alcohol, there's gonna be some metabolic cost to it. So it's just whether you're bothered about that or not. Because a lot of people ride and they don't have a goal that's performance based. So drink all you want, I guess.
That was my next point. So basically, a lot of people who ride where I come from, they just ride all the time so they can eat whatever they want, and like, you know, they're not super lean, but like they just ride all the time, so they're like, oh, I can eat whatever I want, or so they could drink beer. So like a lot of masters guys will be like super strong and everything, but they have like a beer belly, and because they're already in their 40s and whatnot. But and that doesn't make them bad people. It's just they live the lifestyle, so they can consume all that without getting overweight, like extremely overweight.
Yeah, but their goal is to that's their goal, I guess.
Yeah, totally.
They don't mind.
That makes them happy.
Next one: how to prevent hot feet when your feet bottom nerves ache after long time pushing on your so basically how do you prevent hot feet? And that's from Louis Vegan.
Well, first off, shout out to Luis.
Yeah, we
Go
know
vegan
Louis.
Portugal.
We know you, Louis. Yeah.
Oh man, dude, you're looking good out there riding. Super stoked to see all your photos. You've been doing so much riding, I'm jealous. But hot feet, that still happens for me. I always have a tendency to tighten my shoes too tight. That'll do it. Number 2, insoles. I come from a background of only wearing seedy cycling shoes. Love the shoes. Worst insoles in the game that I know of, unless you're getting Walmart shoes maybe. But anybody that I've known on a top level athlete level that has CDs, they would get like professional custom insoles for like $120 done and put them in their shoes, which is probably a good idea for any shoes. I have the S-Works 6 shoes. I love them. I don't ever want another pair. I have mountain and road. They're really great. But my feet still get hot, but I just loosen up my shoes, and like typically that goes away. And if you're hydrated, you're going to be pretty good.
Yeah. So for me, hot feet has definitely been a problem. In extreme conditions like extreme heat, I tend to get a lot more hot foot, and it's usually to do with blood flow getting to your feet, or you bruising the soles of your feet by pushing too hard. And I guess the place to start is having shoes that fit, and insoles is a good idea. I've never actually tried insoles. That's another thing
too, the fitting of the shoes. I just thought that most people would like.
Well, yeah, it's all the same thing, really. I mean, having your shoes too tight, having them not fit properly, it just means that you're not the blood flow in your feet isn't going to be as it should be, and then over time, when you're doing the same repetitive motion over and over again that isn't as correct as it should be, then you're going to get hot feet, and that's when that happens. And so having shoes that fit, having insoles, having them not too tight, and staying hydrated is the way to avoid it. But sometimes it just seems that it's just unavoidable when you're going really hard and you're doing the same motion over and over again. My shoes fit, I've not got them too tight, and I'm staying hydrated, and still it seems to happen. And that can be just something that is genetically, I'm predisposed to not have great circulation in my feet, so I have to be extra careful about all those factors. But they are the factors that play into it. So just if you're mindful of those things.
Allah hail the king.
We need you racing. When can we see it? Yeah, so I've talked about racing before. I want to race, and the more people ask me when am I going to race, the more I seem to want to do it. So it's definitely a splinter in my mind now that is something that I'm going to do in the future. But I think the goal of 5 watts per kilo as my FTP is what I'm going to do first, and then we can see what I can do with that fitness, and racing will probably be one of the things. But you race, don't you?
Yeah, one word of advice, best advice ever. It doesn't matter if you could do 8 watts per kilo.
Yeah.
Don't worry about that when you're racing, because 8 watts per kilo ain't shit.
So I'm not doing the 5 watts per kilo is nothing about racing, but it'd be cool to see what that fitness. Yeah, exactly.
Yes, racing. Racing's a huge mental thing. It is physical, but it's more of a mental thing, because as an athlete, you have to be prepared to lose all the time. A lot of people go their whole life without winning, and you have to accept that. You can't be so hard on yourself. If you put in the work and you're true to your heart, you're gonna do well. Because you're gonna make sure that you look at your mistakes and how can I do better next time, even if you win. I've won a few races in my life, and I always look back and was like, what can I do better next time? Because I lost so much. I raced for 3 years. My first 2 years I made it to a category 2, which is the pro one too, so amateur pro. And once I got there, I finally started training with a coach, and the training was great and everything, and I was like, oh man, if I made it to Cat 2 in my first 2 years without training, by just riding for having fun, then me training, dude, I'm gonna be crushing it.
Yeah.
And then realize, okay, if you don't have a team, you can't go out, it doesn't matter how strong you are, you're nothing compared to 13 dudes in a team on Mike's bikes who have all been racing for 5-6 years, and all of them have 3 to 5 matches, and you have 3 to 5 matches yourself.
But you feel like it gave you a focus.
Totally.
Racing gives you a focus.
Yeah.
And, for me, I think the thing I'm excited about with racing is that it gives you a stimulus that you can't get any other way. So even when I'm pushing myself to my very limit, it's still not the limit that I could be pushing myself when I'm in a race, because you just can't create those same conditions that you would in a race any other way, I don't think.
You can go as hard as you can in a race, and then there's 40 other people, to 100 people in a race, and then they keep attacking. So you decide I'm going to keep going. But when you're training, it's really hard to have that switch.
For sure, exactly. Yeah, totally. So racing coming soon. Tell us about your intermittent fasting, AGZ32. So I've been using intermittent fasting in my cycling when once or twice a week when I want to go peak performance and I don't want my digestion to get in the way of my blood flow going to the muscles that are being used in performance. So I've got what I'll do is I guess it's called carb loading the night before, where I'll just eat all that I care for, and then I'll use that fuel the next day that has been turned into glycogen in my liver and in my muscles, and I'll have about maybe 3,000 calories worth of pure full gas energy, and I'll just go out and all the blood flow will be going to my legs, to whatever muscles I'm using in performance, and none of it will be going towards digestion. And so all the wattage is just full gas, and none of it's going towards digestion. But then as soon as I get back from the ride, I'll just eat and replenish, and there is still no calorie restriction. It's just all about creating a window of full gas performance and zero going on digestion. So that's how I'm using intermittent fasting around my cycling. But when I'm training, I'm not doing intermittent fasting when I'm training through a full block where I'm trying to adapt my body, because I know that I have to go through the calories and there's no point. So at any point in time, it's only once or twice a week, but I know that it's then that I can get peak performance. So
yeah, you explained that really well. I was I'm not into fasting, but the whole intermittent fasting thing, I thought it was I was no, this is not good. Fasting's not good. But so the whole intermittent fasting, I never eat before a ride, even if I'm doing a 6-hour ride, because if you're eating for a ride the day of, it's already too late. So how he said he carb loads the day before, I always eat 2,000 calorie pasta dish before I go to bed, and then it's digested. So then that way the next day you feel empty, but not empty as in hungry. You're good. So I always go the first 2 hours without eating on a ride. Today I just rode 7 miles right now, or sorry, 7 hours. I just rode 7 miles. So to get to Ash today, I rode from my home in Sacramento. We're in Mill Valley. I rode 7 hours and 8 minutes. It's 120 miles with 5,000 feet of climbing. And I made 4 peanut butter jelly sugar sandwiches. So yesterday I didn't quite eat as much as I normally would, because the pasta dish I made, I realized had 3,000 milligrams of sodium. So after 2 bowls, I was completely just loaded. And I also had cranked hydration to make sure that I was hydrated today. And so I ate a little bit before 2 hours, but I never, if I do a ride 2 hours or under, I never eat, because you just go do the workout because you have your fuel from yesterday. But you bring food along to keep you satisfied when you're doing longer rides. And but if you're not eating enough and you're intermittent fasting, the reason why I was against it so much is because I've witnessed people that were intermittent fasting, and we would be out on a 4-hour ride, and then afterwards they couldn't even process their brain, and they're I just need some potatoes. I just need food.
Yeah, I think the key is to know your body and know how much fuel you have stored in glycogen in your muscles and in your liver. But the thing is that people think about the word fasting and they think about caloric restriction, and it is not about that. It's at no point should you be empty of fuel running on fat. I'm never running on fat. I'm always going to be running on sugar or the glycogen that I've already got in my muscles and liver. And that's what you're saying, really, isn't it? You're saying maybe I didn't eat enough then, but I'm going to eat enough now. It's always about having enough calories from carbohydrate, from glucose, from sucrose, from fructose. It's never about fat, is it? No, you never want to be running on a ride just running on fat. You're always going to be burning fat and carbohydrate at the same time, no matter what you're doing, but you never want to be just running on fat unless you're just cruising along at under 200 watts and that is your goal. People think maybe that in order to lose weight you have to do intermittent fasting, or you have to just run on fat. You don't have to just run on fat to get leaner. So we've got a question from Paul DeBell saying how to differentiate getting hurt on the bike versus necessary pain on the bike, which is really difficult to discern between. As I've found out, I've pushed myself through pain and I've injured myself. And I was thinking back to where was the point where I would have been able to say, oh yeah, this is too far, you should stop. If you can feel that the pain is ramping up along with your effort, then I think that is good pain, you know. So if you feel like everything is consistent, and the harder you push, the more in pain you are, then that's probably fine. But if there's some sort of imbalance, like you feel like like knee pain, so if like in your left knee you feel like there's a bit of an imbalance, and the more you push, the more in pain you are in one specific place, then that's probably where the pain isn't good, and you should stop and either adjust something or just rest and recover, you know, which is what I probably should have done with my injury in my left calf muscle, is have stopped completely, because, you know, the more I push it, the more I'm just injuring it, and the pain isn't a gain, it's me going backwards. So
yeah, pushing yourself for performance growth is one thing. Pushing yourself through injury and pain is the wrong thing to do, because that's nothing good is going to come through pushing through an injury. You're just going to get more of an injury, and it's going to be longer of a recovery, and it's going to take you off the bike or take you out of the game for longer. But pushing yourself to grow as a person and be stronger, that's totally fine. There's no pain there. It's more of like, you know, you're feeling what it's like to work your body. But once an actual injury starts to form, that's when you need to be like, hey, you know what, I need to, if it takes a week, I got to jump off for a week, and, you know, like, do something else that's like healthy for the mind.
You got to be patient, man.
Yeah.
You got to be patient. But I think you nailed it. But that is all the questions for today. Thank you so much.
Thank you all for those amazing questions.
Yeah, send us more. If you want to see another Q&A like this, or just Q&As in general, we're happy to answer your questions. But yeah, we're
only in the next week. This guy's going to be 120 miles away, so I can't ride to London.
We'll make it happen. We'll make it work. He's
going to have to fly over.
But for now, we're gonna go 10 miles in that direction to the Golden Gate Bridge to go and get some cheesy cliche shots of...
We're gonna get a reunion photo from 1 year ago we met in Thailand, and we're gonna be doing the States at the Golden Gate Bridge. Historical landmark.
Let's do it.